Now, Michael, can you give us any update after last night, first and foremost on Nathan Cleary? Any further news?
No, good boy. No, not yet, boys, not yet. He'll go for scans first thing this morning, obviously. It was interesting what Ivan Cleary said in the post-game press conference, that it was an issue that he picked up in the pre-season, and he's been nursing it through, obviously, this year. So, yeah, that's definitely a concern, well, no doubt, for the Panthers.
We hang on the result of those scans because, optimistically might only be a couple of weeks. But I think we need to address the fact it could be far more significant than that, Michael. And then we wonder what that means for Penrith and their chances of going 4 in a row. What are you feeling?
Oh, well, without Nathan Cleary, I don't know if they can do it. But we saw last year where Jerome Luai dislocated his shoulder in the second last round of the season. If you guys remember that, he came from the field, looked like his season was over, then came back in the prelim final. Whether that's a comparison or a benchmark for the Panthers, who knows? Because we don't know the extent of Nathan's injury yet. But obviously, we have to just cast our minds back to last year where Jerome Luai was injured late in the season, but still managed to come back for the prelim.
Now, it was a wild game last night. Now, I said I'd unleash the hounds, and Matty, that's happened on the text line. I actually said I thought Ash Klein had a pretty good game. There were so many micro decisions within the game constantly, and I thought he was getting most right, although there's some big ones that are controversial, but they're judgment calls. What did you make of it? As you say, wild game probably fits the bill. Yeah,
wild. I think Penrith had 4 players on report. I think Melbourne ended up finishing with 2 players on report. We saw Nelson, clean up Cam Munster and Dane Laurie, so he'll come up under some scrutiny as well, Nelson. But no, I didn't have too many issues with the officiating. I thought it was a strange game for two sides at the top of the table because Penrith started slow and then found their way back, and Melbourne got the job done. And Melbourne they're in this weird patch at the moment, Melbourne, where they're winning, but I still don't think they're anywhere near their best, which is scary for the rest of the competition.
Well, This on the text line from Stiff Arm Fred, the Storm need these 3 players back ASAP. Christian Welch, Xavier Coates, Sua Fa'alongo. So while we pointed out that Penrith was missing some troops last night, Michael, the same could be said about the Melbourne Storm. Do you expect the inclusion of those 3 might give you some more clarity regarding Melbourne?
Well, Fa'alongo's 18th man, so he's been overlooked.
He was 18th man. Stefan Fred, what's he on about?
You got Tyron Wishart, who's not going to get dropped. You saw how valuable he was last night when he shifted to fill in for Cameron Munster when Munster was off, and then he ended up on the wing. Grant Anderson won't play next week, so because of that HIA. So you'd think Fa'alongo would come back to the team if Coates isn't fit. Coates is not far away from that hamstring. If it's not next week, it'll be the week after. And I think Christian Welch has a back complaint that shouldn't be too long either. So they're not long-termers for the Storm.
Yeah, but Christian Welch was down to 30 minute. He's not the player he was. Yeah. He wasn't playing.
Coates is the one out of those 3 that is in the first choice side.
I think their front row rotation's pretty good, Melbourne. I think they've got that part of the game spot on. David Bexley says, you're kidding, Vossy. Klein had a shocker. How he continues to get the big games is beyond belief. Cleary well down the list of our best refs. I disagree, Dave. I disagree.
978,
you've backed it up as well.
978 says, stop sniffing the candles, Vossy. Another one says, Vossy, get off the see-through didgeridoo. So there has been support for your stance, and I supported your stance in that a lot of the dubious calls came from the bunker, but some of our texts don't necessarily agree. And this one from the Menai Dragon, Michael, I'll come to you with this. Listening to Ben Hunt, writes the Menai Dragon, talking a couple of interviews, he sounds like he's looking forward to retirement. He has a farm in Queensland and the family is going to relocate there. Do you think he will retire at the end of next season, end of 2025, when his Dragons contract finishes? Or are the Dolphins murkying the water there?
Interesting one, boys. The Dolphins were definitely lurking. They reached out to the Dragons recently over the last couple of weeks to inquire about Ben Hunt's availability and if they'd consider letting him go for next season. And Dragons said thanks, but no thanks. He's not available. He's not on the market. So that's an interesting conversation that played out between the Dolphins and the Dragons. Obviously, the Dolphins are on the lookout for an experienced half, I guess. The partner, as I could tell, Cody Nickerem has been outstanding for them this year and just re-signed. But, they're looking at Lewis Dodd, who ended up at South Sydney. They're looking at young Blaze Palangi as well. But as for Ben Hunt, I watched that interview with Jake Duke during the week, and yeah, he said he's uncertain on if he'll go on beyond next season. I guess there'll be a couple of factors to it, boys. Obviously, he's been remarkably injury-free. What does he play? 330 first-grade games, I think he's played, or around that mark. And, he's been pretty durable. So his body's in good nick. The Dragons and Hunt have decided to put off contract talks until the end of the season, just to see where he's at. But I wouldn't be surprised if he went maybe another 12 months, particularly if he thinks that the Dragons are on the upward trajectory. But I see him finishing his career at the Dragons.
331 premiership games for Ben Hunt, Vossy. 331, so you were nearly spot on there, Michael.
Kieran Foran plays his 300th on Sunday against the Dragons. He becomes the latest member of the 300th club. Well done, Kieran. Makes me feel a little old when you actually call their first game. So I called his first game at Brookvale. I think it's you guys put up, I saw, is it 5,354 days, something like that, since that day. So what was I doing 5,354 days ago? Well, I was calling Kieran Foran his debut. So I'll just put it in those terms. Good luck to you, Kieran. Cowboys are re-signing, Michael. What's the news there?
Yeah, big week for Jake Clifford. Obviously, he's earned the number 7 starting spot with Chad Townsend being dropped. Chad Townsend obviously off to the Roosters at the end of this season, but they've given Jake Clifford another 12 months at North Queensland, and the potential to cement himself as a long-term halves partner to Tom Dearden. He made his debut at the Cowboys, obviously, then spent a couple of years at Newcastle, the Super League last year, and returned back to Townsville this season. But Jake Clifford, after usurping Chad Townsend as a starting halfback for the Cowboys, has been given another 12-month extension.
Okay. Now, Brad Arthur, he's coaching Leeds in, an interim role at the moment. Yesterday, Vossy and Brandy spoke about whether Brad Arthur might be the man to lead the WA Bears, the Western Bears, into the NRL. What's Brad Arthur up to?
Yeah, it looks like he's going to extend his stay at Leeds, boys. There'll be a meeting over the weekend where, Leeds are dead set keen on him to stay, obviously, and looks like he's going to recommit for probably another 2 years, I'd say, and that would open up the path to be part of that expansion side. Look, I think it's premature to label anyone as a front runner for the Western Bears. They don't even have a proper board established. They haven't even been admitted into the competition yet, but he's available, obviously, and he's got some family ties to the region and would love to head up that new franchise, but expect Brad Arthur to ink a new deal to remain in the Super League.
Right. Well, and they might not be in the playoffs either. So Brad Arthur, if they stand by him, mind you, he's come in well past the halfway mark of the season, but that's interesting. So Brad just keeps his powder dry in terms of he stays over there in a full-time head coaching job and waits to see the lay of the land here with expansion teams. Because I guess Brad Arthur's name would be thrown up, like let's say we bring in 3 over the course of a 3-4 year period. His name would come up for everywhere, wouldn't it? PNG. I don't think it's out of the question. Second New Zealand team, Perth. Brad Arthur would be a front runner in all of those categories, I would have thought, Michael.
Yeah, no doubt. And it's probably hard as well to see what that coaching landscape will be in 12 months' time as well. What other positions in the NRL are available before that franchise appoints a coach. So, there'll be lots to play out, but he's made it clear, and he's made it clear to Leeds that he wants to be an NRL coach again.
Yeah, they'd have to be clear on that.
Vossy, not everyone is against you regarding last night's officiating. I'm with Vossy on the refereeing rights 248. Ash Klein had to manage the 2 best teams who are the masters of pushing the boundaries. And the Yass Dragon rights, Michael, you might want to comment on this. Tyron Wishart, the best 14 since Craig Wing. He certainly served some roles last night, Tyron Wishart. And I asked Andrew earlier on, we place a high value on halfbacks and fullbacks and damaging, skillful ball-playing front row forwards. What about the ultimate utility player as the game continues to evolve? Where's their value going to go over the next 5 to 10 years?
Oh, super important. Look what Connor Watson's been able to do for the Roosters so far this year. They're so valuable, and we saw the class of Wishart to come on when Munster was off to, he was already on the field, but then adjust to play in the halves and, get a repeat set which was a huge play when the side were down to 12 as well with Nelson off the field, and they eventually scored from that. So it's just the class, and he's played a lot there, obviously because of Cameron Munster's injury. He's played a lot alongside Jerome Hughes, so it wasn't such a big ask for him. But yeah, he's been outstanding.
I'll give you a stat. When he scored that try last night, so he's beaten, 3 tackles, that brought up his 50th tackle bust for the year, and that's his 10th try. Well, that's massive impact. And, of course, he started some of those games, but I don't recall him being a tackle buster before this year. Like Tyrone Wishart was handy player, but you don't, he might have had 10, 15 tackle busts in a season. He's now had 50 this year. But I'm telling you, his form would not be out of, when New South Wales get round to Origin next year and they're talking 14 to 17, Tyrone Wishart enters the conversation. Wouldn't that make his dad proud? One of the great men, Rod Wishart.
Yeah, he's been outstanding, and he's a true beneficiary of that Melbourne system, isn't he? Going there, career at the Crossroads, Dragons Junior, wasn't wanted, went on basically a next to nothing deal at the Storm, and now he's an integral part of that 17. And we mentioned Failongo. Well, there's no way Failongo can usurp Wishart on the bench because of how valuable Wishart's been this year.
Michael, when it comes to tonight's games, Tolu Kola in for Manly, Luke Metcalf in for the Warriors, Siwa Wong in for the Roosters, Micah Sivo in for Parramatta. So there's some team changes there. Are you convinced the two favourites, the two teams expected to win, actually do salute tonight? Manly against the Warriors, Sydney against Parramatta, the Roosters against Parramatta.
Yeah.
Couple of tricky games there.
You think so? Yeah.
Well,
I don't know. Yeah,
I think there could be two good wins for the favourites.
Yes.
You reckon? Sea Eagles and Roosters win well, according to Carayannis and Voss. I'm saying there's going to be an upset. I just don't know which one. I just don't know.
13 plus both. 13 plus both.
Pick one, Matty. Come
Warriors.
on.
Matty, come on, show some cojones.
Warriors to cause an upset.
Warriors.
To start the
Where
Sean
does that
Johnson
form come from?
farewell tour.
At 4 points.
Luke Metcalf back. Freddie Lussick comes in at hooker. I just look at their back line with Pompey coming back in as well. The back line, I can be careful, Manly. Be very careful. That's my advice.
Yeah, well, I'm with you. I hope Sean Johnson kills it. Like, this is the farewell tour now, isn't it? With 4 more weeks of a player who's been as exciting as any I've ever called when he's on his day. And there's been plenty of days for Sean Johnson, but I can't have them. I think Manly get 30. I think Roosters get 30.
And win comfortably.
Well, how much they concede is another matter, but I reckon they can both top 30 tonight. There you go. Michael Carayannis, you've had a wonderful week. The clock is ticking. 8 years to Brisbane. Thanks for your input.
See you guys. Have a good weekend.